There are seasons in life when it feels like nothing is happening, doors stay closed, prayers seem unanswered, efforts feel unnoticed. And in those moments, it is easy to assume that God is silent or inactive. But silence is not absence, and delay is not denial. Because behind the scenes of your life, something is always in motion in the kingdom of God. God does not operate on human schedules. He is not rushed by pressure nor delayed by obstacles. What looks like a pause to you is often preparation in his hands. And what feels like a setback may actually be positioning for something greater than you asked for. There is a divine strategy unfolding over your life right now. You may not see it, but heaven is not idle. God is aligning people you have not met yet. He is closing doors that would have led you into distraction. He is breaking patterns that would have kept you stuck. And he is strengthening you in places where you thought you were being forgotten. The truth is, God often works most powerfully when life feels the most uncertain, because uncertainty forces you to depend on him instead of control. And dependence is where transformation begins. You might be looking for small progress, but God specializes in sudden shifts. He does not just improve situations, he transforms them. He does not just adjust outcomes, he redefines them. So what is coming next in your life will not just be an answer. It will be a revelation of his timing, his wisdom, and his authority. There is a moment ahead of you where things will change faster than you can explain. What took years to block will open in a moment. What felt impossible will suddenly become unavoidable. And when it happens, you will realize it was never delayed, it was perfectly timed. So do not let discouragement convince you that nothing is happening. Something is always happening when God is involved. Even in waiting, he is working. Even in silence, he is speaking through movement you cannot yet see. Stay faithful in what you are doing. Stay grounded in what you know about him. Because the next move of God in your life will not just surprise you, it will confirm that he was in control the entire time. And when it breaks through, you will not call it luck. You will call it grace. There are moments in life when silence feels heavier than noise. You pray, but you do not hear an immediate answer. You wait, but nothing around you seems to shift. You try to move forward, but doors remain closed. In those seasons, it is very easy to misinterpret silence as absence, as if God has stepped away or lost interest in your situation. But spiritual maturity begins when you understand that silence does not equal inactivity. God's work is not always loud, visible, or instantly measurable. In fact, some of his most powerful movements happen beneath the surface of what you can see. While you are focused on what is not changing externally, he may be rebuilding something internally. While you are looking for movement around you, he may be strengthening what is within you. And while it feels like nothing is happening, heaven may already be arranging what you have been praying for in ways you could never organize yourself. Human expectation often demands immediate evidence. We want confirmation that our prayers are working, that our faith is producing results, that our waiting is not wasted. But God does not operate under the pressure of human timelines. His silence is not empty, it is intentional. It is not the absence of activity, but the presence of divine strategy. Just because you cannot hear him does not mean he is not working. Just because you cannot see him does not mean he is not active. Think of a seed planted in the ground. From the surface, nothing appears to be happening. The soil looks unchanged, and there is no visible sign of progress. Yet beneath the surface, something extraordinary is taking place. The seed is breaking open, roots are forming, and preparation for growth is underway. If the seed could interpret silence as inactivity, it would assume nothing is happening. But the unseen process is exactly what guarantees the visible outcome later. In the same way, God often works in hidden ways that only become clear in time. There are also times when silence is God's protection. Not every open door is meant to be walked through immediately. Not every opportunity is aligned with his purpose for your life. Sometimes what feels like delay is actually divine restraint. He is holding back certain outcomes because you are not yet ready for them, or because what is ahead of you is not yet ready for you. What feels like a pause may actually be preservation. Silence can also be a space where God develops trust. When everything is loud and obvious, faith is easy. But when things are unclear, faith becomes real. It is in the quiet seasons that you learn to rely on his character rather than his visible activity. You begin to trust who he is, not just what he does. And that kind of trust becomes unshakable when life becomes unpredictable. There is also a deeper truth. God's silence is never empty. It is filled with intention, wisdom, and timing. He is never idle, never confused, and never distant from your situation. Even when you feel like you are standing still, he is orchestrating movement in places you cannot reach. He is aligning events, shaping outcomes, and preparing answers that will eventually make sense of your waiting. So when life feels quiet and you are tempted to assume nothing is happening, remember that divine silence is not divine abandonment. It is often the space where unseen work is being completed. And when the moment is right, what was hidden will become visible in ways that leave no doubt that God was active all along. There are few things more difficult for a person of faith than waiting in a season where nothing seems to be moving forward. You believe, you pray, you act with sincerity, yet the outcome does not appear. In that space between expectation and experience, the mind begins to create assumptions. One of the most damaging assumptions is that delay means denial. But in reality, delay and denial are not the same language in the kingdom of God. A delay is not a rejection, it is often a refinement. It is not God saying no to your request, but not yet to your timing. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. Because no ends expectation, but not yet preserves hope while shaping character. What you call delay may actually be the process through which God is preparing both you and the outcome you are asking for. Life teaches us to measure progress by speed. If something is not happening quickly, we assume it is not happening at all. But divine timing does not operate under human urgency. God is not racing against deadlines, he is fulfilling purpose. And purpose requires alignment, not just arrival. Before he brings something into your life, he ensures that you are positioned to carry it without being destroyed by it. Many times what you are praying for is not only about the blessing itself, but about the capacity to sustain it. If something arrives too early, it can overwhelm you. If it arrives too soon, it can misalign you. So what feels like delay is often God strengthening your foundation. He is building endurance where impatience wants shortcuts. He is developing wisdom where urgency wants immediate answers. He is shaping maturity where emotions want quick relief. There is also a hidden mercy in divine delay. Not every opportunity you desire is aligned with your destiny. Not every open door leads to growth. Some delays are actually protection from paths you would have regretted later. At the time, it may feel like you are being held back, but in reality, you are being redirected. God sees the full picture while you only see the present moment, and he is not only concerned with where you are going, but what you will become along the way. Delay also becomes a place where dependence is deepened. When things happen instantly, it is easy to attribute success to effort alone. But when answers take time, you begin to recognize that you are not in control of everything. You start to lean more on divine guidance than personal understanding. That dependence is not weakness, it is alignment with truth. It is the recognition that your life is guided by wisdom greater than your own. There are moments when God allows the gap between promise and fulfillment to stretch, because that gap becomes the place where trust is formed. If everything happened immediately, faith would not be required. But in the waiting, faith becomes active. You learn to stand without visible proof. You learn to move forward without guaranteed outcomes. And that process refines your spiritual strength in ways instant answers never could. It is also important to understand that divine delay is not wasted time. In human thinking, waiting equals loss of time. But in God's framework, nothing is wasted. Even in seasons where you feel stuck, unseen preparation is taking place. Relationships are being aligned, circumstances are being adjusted, and internal growth is happening quietly. By the time what you have been waiting for arrives, you may realize that the delay was actually the reason you were ready to receive it. What you interpret as silence or stillness is often construction in progress. God is not only concerned with the promise, but with the person who will carry it. And sometimes the delay is not about the promise being withheld, but about the person being prepared. There are moments in life when it feels like everything is random, people come and go. Opportunities appear and disappear, and doors seem to open and close without explanation. But in the kingdom of God, nothing is random. What looks like coincidence is often coordination. What appears accidental is often intentional. And behind the scenes of your life, there is a divine intelligence arranging details you are not aware of. God is not only concerned with where you are going, but also with what you need to let go of in order to get there. That is why at times he closes doors that you were comfortable with. Not every closed door is punishment, many are protection. Some doors are closed because they lead to cycles that would keep you stuck. Others are closed because they would connect you to environments that would weaken your growth rather than strengthen it. And even though the closing feels uncomfortable, it is often an act of mercy disguised as loss. At the same time, God is also aligning new doors of opportunities, relationships, and directions that are designed for your next season. But alignment requires timing. If everything opened at once, confusion would replace clarity. So while one door is closing, another is being prepared. While one chapter ends, another is being written. And what feels like disruption is actually transition. There is a deeper wisdom in how God orchestrates movement. He does not just give you what you want, he aligns what you need with who you are becoming. That means he also works on the environment around you. Sometimes he shifts people out of your life not because they are evil, but because they are no longer aligned with where you are headed. Some connections expire because their purpose in your journey has been fulfilled. And if they stay beyond their season, they might hold you back from stepping into what is next. God also aligns opportunities in ways that cannot be forced. You may try to push doors open, but if they are not aligned with his timing, they remain closed. At the same time, when the right moment arrives, doors that seemed impossible to open begin to move without effort. That is because divine alignment does not depend on human force, it depends on divine timing. When something is aligned by God, it requires less striving and more stepping in faith. There are also moments when God aligns internal, transformation before external change. He may be shaping your thinking, strengthening your character, or correcting your focus before he shifts your situation. Because if the outside changes before the inside is ready, the blessing can become overwhelming instead of empowering. So he works from within outward, ensuring that when the external shift happens, you are prepared to sustain it. Even relationships are part of this alignment. Some people are placed in your life for seasons of learning, while others are assigned for long-term purpose. And God has a way of bringing the right people at the right time, even if their arrival does not make sense immediately. You may not understand why someone enters your life, but over time, their presence reveals purpose in ways you could not have planned. What feels like disconnection is often divine direction. What feels like loss is often redirection. And what feels like delay is often alignment in progress. God is not confused about your path. He is actively shaping it even when it appears uncertain to you. Every closed door, every unexpected shift, every change in direction is part of a larger design that is leading you towards something that is already prepared ahead of you. So even when life feels unpredictable, there is a steady truth underneath it all. Nothing is misplaced in your journey when God is the one orchestrating it. There are moments in life when situations feel permanently stuck. You try different approaches, you make adjustments, you pray, you plan, and still nothing seems to change. Over time, that kind of experience can create the belief that some things are just impossible to move. But one of the clearest truths about God is that he is not limited by what appears fixed to you. What looks settled in your eyes is not settled in his authority. God is not bound by gradual processes. While human systems often depend on slow progression, divine intervention can produce instant transformation. What takes years to build or break in human effort can be shifted in a moment when God steps into the situation. That is because his power is not constrained by time resistance, or limitation. He does not need extended timelines to accomplish what he decides to do. There are patterns in life that seem unchangeable. Emotional cycles, financial struggles, relational breakdowns, internal fears over time, these can feel like permanent conditions. But what you call permanent is often just prolonged waiting for divine timing. When God decides to move, he does not negotiate with conditions, he transforms them. He does not ask permission from circumstances, he overrides them with authority. Sudden change is not unusual in God's nature. In many moments throughout life, breakthroughs do not arrive gradually, they arrive unexpectedly. One decision, one connection, one opportunity, one shift in direction can completely alter the trajectory of a season. And often these changes happen after long periods where nothing seemed to move. That contrast between waiting and sudden fulfillment is intentional. It reveals that the outcome was never dependent on visible progress, but on divine timing. There is also a deeper principle at work. What is impossible to human effort becomes an opportunity for divine display. If everything could be solved through human ability alone, there would be no need for higher intervention. But when situations exceed natural capacity, they become the stage where something greater is revealed. And in those moments, what could not be fixed by effort is resolved by authority. Sudden breakthroughs often come after seasons of pressure. Not because pressure creates the solution, but because pressure often prepares the person. It reshapes priorities, refines thinking, and removes dependencies on things that cannot sustain long-term growth. Then, when the shift comes, the person is not only surprised by the outcome, but prepared to recognize it as something greater than. Coincidence. It is also important to understand that sudden change does not mean chaotic change. From the human perspective, it may appear unexpected, but from the divine perspective, it is perfectly timed. What seems instant to you has often been prepared over time in ways you could not see. The moment of breakthrough is not where the process begins, it is where preparation becomes visible. There are also situations where God allows long waiting periods specifically so that when the change comes, there is no confusion about its source. If things change too quickly and too frequently, it would be easy to attribute outcomes to chance. But when something shifts after long resistance, it becomes clear that the timing and transformation carry meaning beyond natural explanation. Sudden breakthroughs also reveal that God is not only a God of patience, but also a God of interruption. He can interrupt cycles that seem unbreakable. He can interrupt patterns that feel permanent. He can interrupt limitations that have defined your thinking for years. And when he does, the change is not subtle, it is noticeable, undeniable, and transformative. So even in situations where nothing seems to be moving, it is important not to assume that the outcome is fixed. What is stagnant in your eyes may already be scheduled for sudden movement. And when that moment arrives, it will not just be improvement, it will be transformation that redefines what you believed was possible. There is a tendency in human thinking to interpret life through fragments rather than fullness. We focus on one moment, one struggle, one delay, or one closed door, and assume that it defines the entire story. But what God is doing in your life cannot be understood by isolating a single season. His work is not limited to moments, it is directed toward outcomes. And those outcomes often reveal his control over everything you have walked through. Not just what you are currently facing. When the breakthrough comes, it rarely just answers a single prayer. It usually carries a deeper message that nothing in your journey was wasted and nothing was outside of divine awareness. What felt random begins to reveal purpose. What felt painful begins to reveal preparation. And what felt delayed begins to reveal perfect timing. In that moment, clarity replaces confusion, not because circumstances changed alone, but because understanding is finally given. God's control is often most visible in hindsight. While you are in the middle of uncertainty, it is difficult to see how pieces are fitting together. But when you look back after a shift happens, you begin to notice patterns you missed before. You see how certain doors closing protected you. You see how certain delays strengthened you. You see how certain disappointments redirected you. And slowly you realize that what you called chaos was actually coordination you did not understand at the time. There is also a profound truth in how God establishes authority over time. He does not need to constantly prove his control through immediate answers. Instead, he allows seasons to unfold so that when resolution comes, it carries undeniable weight. The final outcome is not just about relief, it is about recognition. You begin to see that the same hand that allowed the waiting is the hand that produced the outcome. When God completes a season, it often becomes clear that he was shaping multiple areas at once. Not just one situation, but several interconnected parts of your life were being aligned simultaneously. Relationships, timing, internal growth, and external opportunities all begin to converge. What look like separate struggles are revealed to be part of one coordinated process. There is also something powerful about how God uses completion to build confidence in his character. Once you experience his faithfulness in one area, it strengthens your trust in other areas that are still unfolding. You begin to understand that his involvement is not selective, that is consistent. If he was present in your past, he is present in your present, and he will remain present in your future. At the same time, realization often comes gradually. Even after breakthrough, understanding deepens over time. You may not immediately grasp the full meaning of what has happened, but as you reflect, layers of insight unfold. You begin to see that what you thought was delayed was actually synchronized with other events you were not aware of. And what you thought was disconnected was actually part of a larger design. God's control is not only about outcomes, it is about orchestration. He is not just interested in resolving problems, he is shaping direction. That means every experience, whether pleasant or painful, contributes to a larger picture. Nothing stands alone. Everything is connected in ways that only become visible when the season is complete. There is also comfort in realizing that God does not lose oversight of any part of your life. Even when you feel uncertain, he is not uncertain. Even when you feel scattered, he is not confused. Even when you feel like things are slipping, nothing is outside his reach. That assurance becomes clearer when outcomes begin to align in ways that no human effort could have coordinated. And when the final clarity arrives, it often leads to a quiet acknowledgement. What looked like instability was actually structure and progress. What looked like delay was timing being perfected. And what looked like absence was constant involvement you simply could not recognize until the pieces came together. One of the deepest tensions in the human experience is the space between expectation and waiting. You know what you are hoping for, you believe something is coming, but you cannot see when or how it will arrive. In that space, patience is tested, emotions fluctuate, and faith is refined. Yet it is in this very space that God often does his most important internal work. Staying faithful in what you are doing does not mean ignoring your struggle or pretending everything is easy. It means continuing to trust God's character even when circumstances do not immediately confirm his promises. Faithfulness is not measured by how loudly you believe in good seasons, but by how steadily you hold on in quiet or difficult ones. There is a quiet strength in consistency. When nothing appears to change externally, but you still choose to remain grounded, something powerful is happening within you. You are being shaped into stability. And stability is essential for the future God is preparing. Because what is unstable internally cannot sustain what is significant externally. So even your current season, especially the unnoticed parts of it, are contributing to your readiness for what is ahead. It is easy to become distracted when results are delayed. You may be tempted to shift direction, abandon what you started, or redefine your expectations based on frustration. But not every slow season is assigned to. Stop. Some are invitations to remain steady. Because in the kingdom of God, progress is not always measured by visible acceleration, but by internal alignment. Staying faithful means continuing to do what is right even when it does not feel immediately rewarding. It means showing up in prayer even when emotions are dry. It means continuing to walk in integrity when shortcuts seem more appealing. It means holding on to truth when circumstances try to convince you otherwise. These small acts of consistency may not feel significant in the moment, but they build a foundation that later seasons depend on. There is also something deeply formative about trusting God without constant explanation. Faith does not require full visibility, it requires trust in his nature. You may not always understand why things unfold the way they do, but faithfulness says, I will not abandon what I know about him just because I do not understand what he is doing right now. That kind of trust becomes a stabilizing force in uncertain times. At the same time, staying faithful does not mean inactivity. It means continuing to walk in purpose even when outcomes are unclear. You continue to use what you have, develop what is in your hands, and remain attentive to the responsibilities in front of you. Many times, breakthroughs are connected to persistence in ordinary places. What feels small may be exactly what God is using to prepare something larger. There is also a protective aspect to faithfulness. When you remain consistent, you are less likely to be shaped by temporary emotions or shifting circumstances. You are anchored in something deeper than what you feel in the moment. That anchoring becomes essential when life becomes unpredictable because it keeps you steady when external stability is not present. God often uses faithful seasons to prepare capacity. What you are being entrusted with now, even if it seems insignificant, is training you for greater responsibility later. And when the next season arrives, you will recognize that your consistency was not wasted. It was preparation for increased trust, increased opportunity, and increased influence. Over time, staying faithful also builds resilience. You learn that waiting does not destroy purpose, it strengthens it. You learn that delay does not cancel destiny, it refines it. And you learn that what feels like hidden work is often foundational work. So even when progress feels slow, and even when outcomes are not yet visible, there is value in remaining steady. Because in the unseen places of consistency, God is shaping something that will later stand strong under visible responsibility. And when that season arrives, you will not regret the times you chose to stay faithful when nothing seemed to change. There is a point in every journey where understanding catches up with experience, and what once felt confusing begins to make sense. Life has a way of moving through phases where you are required to trust without clarity, wait without explanation, and continue forward without visible assurance. But eventually there comes a season where what was hidden begins to reveal its meaning. And in that moment, you begin to realize that nothing you went through was disconnected from purpose. When breakthrough arrives, it often carries more than relief. It carries recognition. You start to see that the journey was never random. Every delay had direction. Every closed door had intention. Every unexpected turn had a purpose you could not see at the time. And suddenly, what felt like confusion transforms into clarity. Not because the past changed, but because your understanding has been elevated. One of the most powerful realizations in that moment is that control was never in your hands, and yet everything still moved toward completion. That awareness does not create fear, it produces awe. You begin to recognize that there was a guiding presence through every season, even the ones where you felt alone, uncertain, and that presence was not reactive, it was intentional from the beginning. There is also a deep emotional shift when you recognize that God was not just involved in your good moments, but also in your difficult ones. The seasons you wished to escape were often the very seasons shaping your strength. The challenges you prayed away were sometimes the very tools building endurance within you. And the waiting periods you struggled through were not wasted, they were forming the foundation of what you now appreciate. As clarity unfolds, you begin to reinterpret your entire journey. What once felt like setbacks begin to look like redirections. What once felt like delays begin to look like preparation. And what once felt like loss begins to look like necessary removal. This shift in perspective does not erase the pain you experienced, but it gives it meaning that stabilizes your heart. There is also a humbling realization and understanding that you could not have orchestrated your own path. Even your best decisions, when viewed in isolation, would not have been enough to produce the outcome you now see. This is where recognition turns into gratitude. You begin to acknowledge that something greater than your planning, your effort, or your understanding was guiding the process. At the same time, the realization that God was in control brings peace to the places where confusion once lived.
Loving you alone feels so beautiful. and yet it hurts the most. You became my quiet sunrise, the dream I never dared to say. Every smile you gave so freely took my breath a little away. I held this love like fragile glass, so precious, soft and true. But every beat inside my heart was only reaching out to you. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do. I can't blame my heart for choosing someone it could never keep. So I smile through hidden heartache and love you quietly. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do. Maybe loving you in silence is the closest I can stay, though it leaves behind a sorrow that may never fade away. Unspoken love is sweet and painful, like honey mixed with rain. A tender hope I hold so tightly, while it slowly breaks me. Loving you from just one side now leaves my soul in silent blue. 'Cause the deeper that I fall alone, the lonelier I do.